Salutations and greetings, everybody. Welcome to another installment of League Unlock. We are aboard the Millennium Falcon today as we fly Han Solo again. And the theme in today's episode is World Champions and the movement that they're having in the LCS. We knew coming into 2019, all these former world champions were coming to find the glory of capturing an LCS title. The only one who actually did that was, of course, Core JJ with Team Liquid. But as free agency continues and rolls on pretty much every day now this entire week, and I don't see it stopping anytime soon, we've had at least a few big announcements or big moves that have happened ever since free agency kicked off on November 18th. And yeah, it's going to continue because there's still tons of question marks. The LCS, I mean, the rosters have filled out more than any of the other major regions, but we did have some big announcements, specifically around 100 Thieves. It was heavily rumored that Bang and Ssumday, they weren't both going to be on the roster in 2020, and now we know that Bang is out of there. They traded him to Evil Geniuses alongside the rest of that roster that is slowly coming together. We know they have Svenskeren, we know they have Zeyzal, so that's who Bang is going to be paired with in that bottom lane, which is definitely not a combo, a bot lane duo that I was expecting to be talking about or hearing for the 2020 split. Very interested to see how those two are going to mesh because we know it took a long time for the synergy and communication to develop with Bang and Afro. So I don't know if it's starting from ground zero here with Bang and Zeyzal. Hopefully they can get it a little bit faster. But for all the trials and tribulations that 100 Thieves had in 2019, I still think that Bang was the most consistent player, and I think most people would agree with that. Maybe, no, he did not live up to the hype of completely dismantling every other bottom lane in the LCS, won a two-time world champion, and who was at times considered one of or a top 2 AD carry on the entire planet. You're expecting him to completely obliterate anyone on a North American team, but that was not the case. He did have some moments where you saw, okay, that's SKT Bang, but he was still featured heavily in this 100 Thieves lineup. So I think if you're an EG fan, or maybe Bang going over there will make you an Evil Geniuses fan, I'm still excited to see him on a new roster. I'm still excited to see him perform in North America. I think he's going to be better than he was in 2019. And I mean, there's no reason to think he shouldn't be vying for a playoff spot. This EG squad, I mean, even with that core of Svenskeren, Bang, and Zeyzal, that's definitely a playoff team. And depending on who they get in that mid lane, if they do end up using Kumo in that top spot, because they're still going to have an import position available because Svenskeren becomes a North American resident and will not take one up. You got to imagine they use it on the mid lane, which means Kumo will probably be there in that top side. But regardless, really, of who they get in that mid lane with Svenskeren and Bang, this is definitely going to be a playoff team, and excited to see them hit the rift. With Bang leaving from 100 Thieves, that opened up the door for Ssumday to be re-signed. And no, he will not be on the academy team. 100 Thieves made sure to announce that he will be on the starting roster in the LCS for the 2020 spring split. Thank goodness. It was an absolute tragedy to see a man of this talent being wasted in the Academy League, although we do know that he would win that Academy League with 100 Thieves Academy, and it was not fair what he was doing, and not fair to those opposing top laners in the Academy League who were, you know, trying to really showcase that they deserve a potential spot on an LCS roster. But when you have to go up against an LCK MVP, an all-pro LCS top laner in Ssumday, it's just not really fair. He was completely smashing down there, and it was really not at all, as we know, his performance why he was in Academy. It was solely because 100 Thieves were trying to juggle their import slots with Ryu, and they wanted Bang as well. There was no room for Ssumday, so thank goodness Papa Smithy comes in and they have kind of rejigged this roster, and now they have Ssumday with Meteos, who obviously they have played together before, We still don't know what the rest of this roster is going to look like. Heavily rumored that Ryoma will be coming over from the OPL into the mid lane. And if that is the case, then that's both import slots, which means they need a domestic bottom lane. They should probably hold on to Afromu, even though he had some questionable moments. It's just a matter of, are you going to be able to find a real upgrade at support? I mean, Smoothie's gone, Biofrost is gone. Maybe you bring up Stunt from the academy, but I still feel like I'd be more comfortable going with Afromu. And for AD carry, the best available domestic AD carry right now, probably Sneaky, because he's no longer on C9, which means there is a legitimate chance that we get the Meteos and Sneaky OG Cloud9 lineup reunion. That would obviously be very fun, and the announcement video would be absolutely ridiculous. One thing is for sure, if that did happen, there would be a lot more personality on this team than what we saw in 2019 before Amazing got there. And 100 Thieves, so far so good for the offseason. Obviously, Ryoma, if he does come in as the mid laner, that's a bit of a question mark. We'll see how he can perform on the LCS stage. But so far, excited about the 100 Thieves roster. The other world champion that was on the move is Crown. We thought Immortals, it sounds like they're not going to be bringing him over from that Optic lineup. I don't know why. Maybe he was too expensive, but he is heading to CLG in a repeat performance of what we saw happen last year. He takes Power of Evil's spot. He did it in Optic, and now he goes over to CLG, and this is likely what we're going to be seeing out of that CLG lineup. Ruin should be staying, which means you still have that Korean tandem. We know that Crown loved playing with Arrow, to have another Korean player to speak to, and that's exactly the role that Ruin can fill, as well as being a borderline all-pro top laner last split if he didn't, get caught out and die a little bit too often. Stixay and Smoothie in the bottom lane, Wiggly in the jungle. So 3/5 of that CLG lineup returns from last year. And remember, they were a top 3 team in the summer split. They had a big turnaround. I will say that Smoothie is definitely a downgrade from Biofrost, but the upgrade of Crown over Power of Evil, I think that is a bigger upgrade than Smoothie is a downgrade. So overall, you got to think with a much stronger mid laner that CLG should actually be potentially a better team. Obviously, whether or not they're top 3 depends heavily on what the other rosters in the LCS end up looking like. But with a new head coach in Song over Irene, it's still a lot of question marks for CLG. But on paper, if you're just looking at the roster, yeah, losing Biofrost hurts, but Crown basically dragged some former corpses of players into the playoffs in the summer split, and he was far and away the best player. He was getting MVP praise for a couple of weeks in the summer and spring split as well. So bringing somebody like that onto the CLG roster, I think will be huge for them, obviously, and we'll see how the synergy between him and Wiggly develops. But it's going to be all about solo laners for Counter Logic Gaming, and that is where Wiggly is probably going to be putting most of his attention. So very excited to see how Crown fits into this lineup. And poor Power of Evil, whenever he leaves, it's just, or maybe he leaves because he knows that Crown is coming in, but he takes his job again. And again, I think it's going to be an upgrade for CLG because it's been too long since we've seen this team at a world championship. Is this roster world class? That remains to be seen, but they're definitely a high-tier playoff team for 2020 spring so far.